After watching Substance, you might ask yourself, what the heck was it? Was it Arthouse body horror? A satire on Hollywood? A dark drama about self-acceptance? Or all of the above? Coralie Fargeat's film has deservedly become one of this year's major cinematic events and has caused a storm of controversy. Why is Substance a feminist film? Why are there so many disgusting scenes? Is it so important to pay attention to implausible details? And what does the monster in the finale symbolise? Let's get to the bottom of it.
Take care of yourself.
Substance is a film about the importance of accepting yourself and not chasing unrealistic standards of beauty and approval from others.
Here's your little beauty secret.
The conflict between the heroines can be interpreted as a confrontation between two beginnings of a soul. Margaret Qualley plays not a young version of Demi Moore's character, but the embodiment of her innermost desires, the ideal that Elizabeth imagines for herself. It's no coincidence that we are constantly reminded of this. Coralie has said that the inspiration for the film was her own anger at her young self. Extended youth steals time from old age, and this conflict is taken literally in the film. But what matters in Substance is not just the story itself, but the way it is told. The makers defiantly disregard all rules of decency, deliberately provoking and embarrassing the viewer. For example, with close-ups of buttocks or a naked Demi Moore. This could pass for objectification, but unlike male directors who often relish such moments, Coralie's scenes are decidedly grotesque. The director shoots Margaret Qualley so pretentiously and vulgarly that it looks like a commercial, and blatantly tasteless, which makes everything that happens on screen seem more sinister than seductive. In this way, Substance seems to crack the dominant male gaze, which often reduces women's bodies to nothing more than a source of arousal. In the film, the bearer of this gaze is a television producer, played by Dennis Quaid, a largely caricatured character with a decidedly masculine appearance. It is interesting how Coralie demonstrates his consumerist attitude towards Demi Moore's character, and women in general, through disgusting food shots. Extreme close-ups serve much the same purpose, emphasising the predatory nature of his behaviour and increasing the heroine's anxiety. The women are always under the scrutiny of others.
Too bad her boobs aren't in the middle of her face instead of that nose. Next!
For example, in the first scene of the film, Sue feels a change in her body and is afraid that everyone will notice it.
The director said he saw something bizarre on the monitor. Bring up the replay on camera 2. Camera 2?
The visual world of Substance creates an atmosphere of discomfort. Despite the abundance of bright colours, much here seems defiantly artificial, from costumes and sets to smiles and gestures.
Take care of yourself.
The creators set this theme in motion in the opening shot, in which egg yolk is copied. To reinforce the sense of artificiality, Coralie uses symmetrical compositions that in places directly quote Stanley Kubrick's horror films, such as The Shining. Notice what Elizabeth's apartment looks like. It can hardly be described as a cosy place. It's more like a sterile museum of her own vanity, and minimal signs of life only appear when the heroine stops taking care of herself. The film's uncomfortable atmosphere is reinforced by the abundance of close-ups, details, and expressionist sound design, in which everyday and physiological sounds are artificially turned up to maximum volume. Another elegant way of conveying the abnormality of the action is the wide-angle lens, which changes the shape of objects. And this approach works for both wide shots and close-ups.
How the old bitch has been able to stick around for this long. That's the fucking mystery to me.
The conflict between the authentic and the artificial is one of the central conflicts in the film. The entertainment industry in Substance works to mask reality and hide the ugly. This is why the film's finale takes place at a New Year's Eve show, where the monstrous Eliza Sue, who wants to be Cinderella at the royal ball, ruins the evening's glamour for those who want to hide from reality.
Tonight.
Although the television industry in the film is deliberately average, it's hard not to see it as a collective image of Hollywood's cult of beauty and youth.
I have to give people what they want.
And the very substance ingested in the film is reminiscent of the slimming drug Ozempic, popular in the West, which makes the film particularly relevant. In this sense, body horror becomes an ideal tool for critiquing contemporary mainstream cinema. Typically, this subgenre of horror deals with frightening bodily changes that act as metaphors for psychological or social problems. In substance, however, it is not the change itself that is frightening, but the process of aging, a reminder that death is approaching. The gruesome images serve as literal visualizations of the heroine's phobia. Surprisingly, in contrast to the disgusting episodes, the simple everyday scenes, in which there are no fantastical elements but only the despair and sincere pain of the characters, seem stronger and more poignant. The motif of aging is introduced at the very beginning of the film, in a very elegant way, through the story of Elizabeth's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. With this inventive long shot, Coralie reminds us of the transience of life and, no less importantly, of popularity. In the finale, the image of the star returns, becoming both tragic and ironic. Coralie shows the price of fame, but at the same time it is difficult not to sympathise with Elizabeth at this moment. This motif of popularity is also interesting because Demi Moore's filmography and substance seems like a commentary on her entire oeuvre. As the path of Elizabeth Sparkle resembles the biography of the actress herself.
You're 22 now?
22.
The star of The Haunting and Soldier Jane seems to have come to terms with her status as a fading star and makes a great acting performance out of it. However, it's more important for the filmmakers not only to tell the story, but also to give the viewer the chance to feel such an experience. That's why the film has so many shots taken from a subjective point of view. Usually these are stressful situations, but even in quiet scenes we often see objects from the same angle as the characters. And on an auditory level, we often hear everything the way they hear it. At such moments, we literally find ourselves in the heroine's bodies, becoming one with them, which makes all the changes much more painful than if we were watching them from a distance. We can also note the acid montage in some episodes, which conveys the workings of the heroine's consciousness. The main complaint about Substance is its domestic unreliability. After watching the film, one is left with many questions. For example, did the heroine still have one consciousness for two or not? What kind of company created the substance? And who let the Elisa Sue monster in to record the New Year's Eve show in the first place? None of this really matters. Although the film makes references to real-life personalities, the character of Dennis Quaid, for example, has traits of disgraced producer Harvey Weinstein. Substance works more as a parable. The metaphorical nature of the story is suggested by many things, from the protagonist's spoken surname, Sparkle, to the conventional world. The city in which the events of the film take place clearly resembles Los Angeles, but there are few real signs of this in Substance. The same can be said about the setting. It is obvious that the heroes use quite advanced technologies, but at the same time the popularity of fitness shows and screaming costumes seem to refer to the 80s. It's much easier to understand the film if you bear in mind that everything takes place in a conventional, modern America. And the story itself does not require verisimilitude, because the creators wanted to convey a particular female experience and immerse the viewer in an uncomfortable situation to point out the obvious problems of modern society. Unhealthy pursuit of success, cruel attitude towards oneself, and disregard for the interests of others. Formally, Substance remains a genre film, but its merit is that it carries a powerful critical charge. It is an invitation to look at the world and each other in a new way, and maybe even to love ourselves the way we are.